the Chuck Norris that you think you knew is not the person that he really was. He was a great star. He was a hell of a martial artist. You can't take that away from him. But in terms of his politics, they were as pro-Israel and pro-Zionist as they could possibly be. And when you consider all that we now know, yeah, well, Bruce Lee is still the king. But I would say that Chuck Norris was probably the closest thing to him that we knew. And he was a legitimate action star. Now, of course, so was Bruce Lee, but Bruce Lee was cut down way too early. Chuck Norris has died at the age of 86. And he has done a lot of films over the years that, for me personally, the one that always stood out the most was The Delta Force. That is the movie that I really became aware of him for. But what you learn over time is that the Delta Force is actually one of the most pro-Israel, anti-Palestinian pieces of propaganda that you will ever see. Now, for anybody who is familiar with the film or is at least familiar with the work, you would know that a movie like this is 1000% Hasbara. Colin, can I please have that blown up? So, no, can you just do it as a standalone image? Is that possible? I guess that's about as good as it's going to get. So this movie came out at the beginning of 1986, and it was done at the backdrop of the TWA hijacking that took place, I believe, in 1982 in Beirut. And what we learned over the course of what actually transpired in Beirut is that this movie was done to garner as much sympathy for Israel as humanly possible. And it probably, at that particular time, worked to great effect. Now, what I didn't know at the time is that the terrorists in the film were portrayed as Palestinian. So again, that should not come as any surprise to anybody. But it was a film that, believe it or not, was actually panned, but it had a very popular following. This movie was released at the height of the Reagan 80s. America, fuck yeah, if you will. And it was Chuck Norris, Lee Marvin, George Kennedy. Robert Forster played the head terrorist. It was a real cast of characters. It really was. But the whole message of the film was that, and there were so many nuances. I mean, I don't know how many people actually that are watching here actually is familiar with the film in terms of what the overall message was. When I think back on the film now and what that movie meant, because it really is, I mean, listen, Chuck Norris has said that that was his favorite movie, that was the movie that he's most proud of. Okay. So the whole premise behind the film is that it was about Palestinian terrorists hijacking a flight from Athens to the United States, I believe. And the flight had quite a few Jewish people on the flight. And once it got taken over, the terrorists made it a point to identify the Jewish people on board and basically go through a selection. Now, how did they do the selection? They did it with the purser who was German, a German extraction, and was having like a nightmare having to do this. And then, of course, multiple members of the flight were Holocaust survivors from Auschwitz because they had the ink on the arm. There was also an implication that one of the two Palestinian terrorists was a pedophile, that he was being a little too friendly to a young girl whose Jewish father was being taken from her. So that's the overall premise of what this film was initially about. And then you enter the Chuck Norris, we're going to come in, save the day, Delta Force. So that's what they did. And the whole premise of the movie was that Palestinians are evil, or more specifically, Arabs are evil. The Jews are just persecuted and misunderstood, so we have to come and save them. And eventually they do. And Chuck Norris ends up kicking lots of ass, as you can imagine. But this movie was directed by an Israeli named Menachem. See, I can't really say it because it's not Menachem Begin, although it was the same name. So I want to make sure I get this name correct. The director of this movie, and of course, the Delta Force is now free on Tubi, because why wouldn't it be? Oh, apparently Liam Neeson in a non-speaking role was one of the Delta Force members in this movie. Menachem Golan, he was the director, he was the writer, and he produced it. This film was as pro-Israel, anti-Palestinian as you could possibly be in every way. You see it now, years later, you recognize what you're watching. But at the time, as a child, I didn't know better. And I was brought up to believe that the Palestinians, or they wouldn't even refer to them as Palestinians, they were Arabs, if you will, that they were the bad guys. No. No, the whole concept of Israel is a concept that shouldn't exist. And Chuck Norris was all the more ready, willing, and able to play a preeminent role in just that. He made 3 films in Israel. He said this was his favorite. You know what else Chuck Norris did, ladies and gentlemen? He did this.
Well, it's not clear whether Netanyahu will win re-election, but he has the endorsement of Chuck Norris.
I watched Prime Minister Netanyahu's speech before Congress and saw a man who loves his country with all his heart and soul. I ask you to vote for Prime Minister Netanyahu on Election Day.
I don't know. I think that this is going to be an image that unfortunately is going to be very thick in most people's minds when they think about Chuck Norris. And we've got some great Chuck Norris facts. Anybody in the chat, post your favorite Chuck Norris fact. We at least have to be able to laugh a little bit. I mean, he is gone now. There's no reason we can't have a little humor thrown in. He brought this on himself, of course. I can't really say which was my favorite, although I really like the one when the boogeyman goes to sleep at night, he checks under his bed for Chuck Norris. Chuck is able to slam a revolving door. I liked that one. And he can kill two stones with one bird. That's another one. But when you think about what he'll be remembered for, he should be remembered for this. He will be remembered as somebody who was a staunch Zionist. And I mean staunch. Somebody who went and wailed at the wall. Somebody who didn't just support Israel, but considered Netanyahu Milikowski a friend. Which again is unfortunate. And yes, David Hunter, I do remember the total gym. Chuck Norris was a man who advocated for a physically fit life. And I can respect that and appreciate that because I do the same. He was definitely an evangelical. He 100%, his message, as far as that was concerned, was sound. I did agree with it. There's some really good ones about Chuck Norris, and his face is what he has. You know, the old joke, there's a fist behind his beard, or whatever it's called. But yeah, he, again, I never would accuse him of being a thespian and of any kind. He simply is. Because only Travers would come up with that one. I don't know if he did that on his own, but hey, credit where credit's due. In fact, Chuck Norris turned down the role in Brokeback Mountain as he complained the love scenes weren't graphic enough. No, what's more disturbing, and again, we know that there is no proof of life when it comes to Netanyahu Milikowski, but I'll say this. Action movie star Chuck Norris has died. Family statement. The Times of Israel decided to put out a message. Well, isn't that a very swell-looking photograph? Like I said, he didn't hide the fact that he supported imperialism. He supported Hasbara. Chuck Norris, the U.S. martial artist and Hollywood action star, most famous for his role in Walker, Texas Ranger, has died at the age of 86. With heavy hearts, our family shares the sudden passing of beloved Chuck Norris yesterday. To the world, he was a martial artist, actor, and a symbol of strength. Colin? To us, he was a devoted husband, a loving father and grandfather, an incredible brother, and the heart of our family. Yeah, not really. He lived his life with faith, purpose, and an unwavering commitment to the people he loved. Through his work, discipline, and kindness, he inspired millions around the world and left a lasting impact on so many lives. Yes, he did. Norris reportedly fell ill on Thursday on the Hawaiian island of Kauai. Norris turned 86 last week, marking the event with a video of him boxing on social media saying, "I don't age, I level up." At least he got in on the Chuck Norris facts as well. The martial arts expert turned actor has starred in a slew of action films since his acting debut in the cameo of a 1968 Dean Martin film, The Wrecking Crew. He wrecked quite a few people. 4 years later, his epic fight with a kung fu superstar Bruce Lee in The Way of the Dragon helped turn Norris into an icon on big and small screens alike. Nothing like some playful action on a sunny day to make you feel young. Well, he's not so young anymore. And that, unfortunately, is just one example of what ends up happening if you align yourself with the state of Israel. And not just the state of Israel, but Netanyahu. Now, that is his legacy.